Jacques Torres. I love chocolate because it's so versatile. You can do so much more with it than just make cake and candies. It is fun to make containers out of chocolate and put candies inside. So today I will use gelatin to make a mold for a chocolate champagne bottle. You will see that you can use this technique to make almost every kind of mold. Then I will show you how to silk screen a label onto the bottle. Then finally, I will make a champagne truffles. The truffles are shaped like a champagne cork, and I will put those inside the bottle. I promise you that when I will be finished, my bottle will look almost real. All this talk about chocolate containers make me think about the amazing chocolatier in France. Take a look. Paris is a city with some of the most exquisite chocolate in the world. So whenever I am in Paris, I love to visit my friend Jean-Paul Evin, who I consider to be one of the finest chocolatiers in France.
How are you doing, Jean-Paul? So nice to see you. That's where you melt the chocolate, that's your melter. And that's where the chocolate will start to crystallization and temper.
Voilà.
You let it thicken a little bit to do your molding or to do your hearts.
Oh, bah viens, on va voir.
Ah,
Je vais
okay.
te faire voir comment on fait.
The chocolate is almost crystallizing, so you put it in a paper cone. Closing that, no leaks. Cut a little holes on the tip of it, not too big. And now you're going to do the lace hearts. And when the chocolate is going to crystallize, the chocolate is going to retract, and it will come out of the mold.
Voilà.
One way, and then you cross it the other way. That's a beautiful technique. And you put enough chocolate until the whole heart has enough structure.
Ensuite, on fait bien le tour.
And then you reinforce the side to get a little bit more structure around it. Simple enough to do that at home, as long as you have the mold. You clean the side, so like that the chocolate has some space to retract.
Voilà, on met au réfrigérateur.
You're pouring the chocolate into the mold to do the bottom of the heart. So that's to remove all the bubbles who can get trapped on the bottom of the mold.
Et là.
That's to empty whatever you have too much inside the mold. That's going to be nice and thin. Now you do like before, you just clean the mold, because if the chocolate will stick on the side, it will crack. And now you're going to put it in a refrigerator. About 10 minutes, we can unmold everything. Jean-Paul, those hearts look beautiful, very shiny, gorgeous.
Tiens, regarde, tu vois? Je retourne comme ça mon cœur, je mets celui-là dessus. Voilà.
Jean-Paul is really a master. I have to remember his techniques for the next Valentine's Day. Now, sometimes you want to do some chocolate presentation, some forms, and the mold doesn't exist. So we don't have much choice than just make a mold. And an easy way to make a mold is to use gelatin. I like to use powder gelatin. It's a little bit easier to find. So what I do, I put some powder gelatin in a container, and then I add some cold water to it. Then I'm going to let that gelatin
set a little bit, so like that it will bloom. And then I will add some sugar to it. And then I'll put that into a double boiler. And that will melt all the gelatin, and this is the first step. For the next step, I love to use those aluminum flashing, and you can find that into home centers or hardware store. So I just bend it, and then I'm going to put a tape to close both sides and a spatula to get some rigidity on the mold. So that's about what I get. And then I put the bottle inside. But if I do that, the bottle is going to rest on the bottom of the mold, and when I'm going to put my gelatin, I will have a hole on the bottom where the chocolate is going to go. So what I do, I put about 1 inch thick of gelatin, let it set half an hour in the fridge, and then now when I put my bottle on top of it, I don't get any holes because the bottle rests into the gelatin. I'm going to put that over sugar, so like that the mold gets some stability. Now everything is ready. I'm going to pour the hot gelatin over the bottle. So you just have to cover the whole bottle with the liquid gelatin and put that in the fridge overnight. Just like that. Now I'm going to put this mold overnight into the fridge. But it's time for a quick break, but I will be right back to finish my bottle and get started on my seal screen label. So please stay with me. Welcome back. I am making a chocolate champagne bottle today. I have my gelatin mold with pretty much set now. So I'm going to cut the tape on each side of the mold to open it. And this is magic. Look at that. That's great. I love to do that. I already pre-cut the bottom of the mold here. So what I do now, I unstick the bottle. Is that amazing how gelatin can work? So keep the bottle, it's already chilled. Now that I have the top of the mold cut, I have to cut the bottom. So I'm just going to go straight down and keep cutting it. Okay, we have a clean cut here. So we have our mold ready. Now, what I have to do is to pour chocolates inside the mold and reverse it. So I'm going to do that. And remember that everything we do today is edible. Even the mold is in gelatin, so this is edible too. So I'm going to fill the mold with the chocolates. Just like that. I love these techniques. You can do basically anything with that. Okay. And then I'm going to reverse the mold over a rack. Now, pretty fast, the chocolate going to set. I have to be sure that the sides are pretty straight. Because the mold is cold, the chocolate is going to set very fast. So with a knife, I clean the side and I reverse it. So that's what I get when the chocolate hardens. Now, to unmold it, we have to push the gelatin on each side to unstick the mold, and then the bottle should be ready to remove. And the good things about that is that when you're done with that mold with your project, you can melt the gelatin and store it in the freezer. Next project, melt it again, do another mold. Now that we have the bottle, we can see that a real bottle have a gold wrapper around it. So I need to put some gold here. So in order to do that, I have some gold powder. I'm going to add a little bit of alcohol. Kirsch will work well. This is
framboise, even better. So I'm going to use a brush, and then I'm going to paint the gold over the top of the bottle. And again, gold is edible. Everything that we do today is edible, even the mold. So what amazes me every time I work on those projects is the detail. You can see here the detail under the wrapper of the real bottle. This is fun. Okay, now we have the bottle, we have the wrapper, we need the label. The way to do a label is to take a real label or something that you generate in your computer with your name on. I use a real label. And then I make a copy in black and white, and I send that or email that to company who do silk screen. And I have here a silk screen. A silk screen is nothing else than a piece of fabric with the dark places where if we put water on here or chocolates, the chocolate will go through the dark spot, not through here. That doesn't have any holes. Here we have a lot of very small holes. Chocolates can go through. And the name is a stencil or a silk screen. So I'm going to put that over chocolate plastic. Chocolate plastic is white chocolate mixed with a little bit of corn syrup. We mix that on the table, we put a little bit of cornstarch, and we roll it like we will do with any dough. So now the next step going to be to put a little bit of chocolates here. And for that I use unsweet chocolate because it's darker. So I put the unsweet chocolates here. And then I'm going to use a plastic rubber tool to spread that, a squeegee. Okay. And then I'm going to remove the mold, and we get the label. Next step will be to cut around the label pretty cleanly. And again, you can do any kind of label you like. You can put your name on it. And the fun thing is, everything is edible. Okay, I'm going to cut around here. And now all I have to do is remove the label from the table. And I'm going to put it over my bottle. I put a little bit of syrup over the chocolates to make it very shiny. And now we have an almost finished bottle. I'm going to take a small break and I'll be right back to get started on my champagne truffles. So please stay tuned. Welcome back, I am Jacques Torres, and I am going to get started on my truffles now. Champagne truffles, most of the time, chocolatier doesn't use real champagne. We usually use something called marc de champagne with a cognac made with the grape from the Champagne area. What we're going to do today, we're going to use the real stuff, champagne. So we put some champagne into a pot, and we're going to bring this champagne to a boil. Then, when the champagne is hot enough and start to boil, we're going to pour it over milk chocolates. That smells good. Now, I'm going to mix that, and to mix a ganache, we always start in the center of the bowl to create an emulsion. And when the emulsion starts, we start to widen the movement and bring all the piece of chocolates into the mixture. When everything is mixed together, we're going to add a little bit of butter. Butter, a lot of time, bring some creaminess to the ganache. And the ganache is the word used for a mixture like that of a liquid and chocolate. And then the last thing that I'm going to add into the ganache is a little bit of marc de champagne to reinforce the taste of the champagne. If you have a little bit of piece of butter like that, just use an immersion blender and blend everything together. Then what we do, we let the champagne or the ganache set a little bit until we get something creamy like that. So now, with a piping bag, I get everything ready to fill my mold. And I have to show you how to mold the chocolates into those molds. Those molds are polycarbonate candy mold, and all I have to do here is to put some liquid chocolate over the mold. You have to be careful that every cavity are full. And then with an offset spatula, I'm going to scrape the top. And then I'm going to chase all the air bubble by tapping the side of the mold. And then I'm going to reverse the mold over the chocolate. That's why I use a pretty wide bowl. And then I reverse this mold into a rack. In about 5 minutes, the chocolate is going to start to set. So using a bench scraper, I already scrape everything and make it clean. So now those molds set for a little bit longer. So I can now put my champagne ganache into the mold. And as you can see, the form of the mold are champagne cork. So it's important to use a peppercorn or a pastry bag to fill those molds. So I just fill them almost all the way to the rim. Then when we get all those molds full, where are they? They are here. That's what we get. We have the mold already set, the chocolate around, and all those molds are filled with the ganache. Now, the way to assemble them and stick them together is to put a little bit more chocolate, but only on one side of the mold. With an offset spatula, we're going to spread it, but we don't going to scrape it. We have to leave a little bit more chocolate than needed if there will be only one mold, and that's because we're going to add another one on top. So I have to be sure that they match. Yes, that's the way. And then I put them together and press very hard. I'm going to put that in the fridge for a good 5 minutes. And then, this is what we get. I love this mold. Look at that. We get some beautiful, small chocolate champagne cork. And this is the real stuff. It's time for a break, but I'll be right back to assemble my champagne bottle. Please stay tuned. Welcome back. My champagne bottle is almost ready. I'm looking at this label and I'm thinking, you don't have to go to all those trouble if you don't want to do a silk screen. Actually, you can use the same chocolate plastic and make a label and paint with food color whatever you want on it. Here I paint chocolate truffle, and you can take some melted cocoa butter, put that in a small container, then add a little bit of red dry color. It's very important to use dry color because otherwise chocolate seizes with water or with any liquid. So just mix those two together, then you get a nice paint. And now you can do the border of the label, just like that. And you go all around, and you will have something a little bit more homemade. So I just apply the label on top of the bottle. You can also put a little bit of chocolate and stick it. Now we have the two sides of the bottle, and I'm going to show you how to do a nice centerpiece with that. I put that into a tray. I have a champagne bucket here. I'm going to put it down and put the bottom side of the bottle just like that. And then I'm going to fill it with all those champagne truffles. I love the shape of those cork. They really look like a real cork. Okay, now we're going to put a little bit more than what we need. With one mold you can fill one bottle, but we're going to put some around it. Just here. Oops, some are opening here, so I'm going to be a little bit more careful. And we just put them around like that, just to don't have an empty container on the table. Okay, I'm almost done with that. And we can also put actually some of them straight up and around here. And all we have to do now is put the top of the bottle. I love to work with chocolate so much that I'm running out of time. Thanks for watching. I'm Jacques Torres. And remember, life is richer with chocolate.